we call it almost like motivational interviewing on steroids. I do think that some of the literature around intervention is very helpful. So you're always framing, reframing, looking for those leverage openings, forming that relationship. Then, of course, because we do a lot of placements, we do try then to get them a full diagnostic assessment. And so that requires a certain licensure. Then our placement people tend to be more case manager types who are working, because we do placements, we're almost have real-time information about who's got openings. So, Shauna, don't you think? It kind of, there's other models out there that I know people are looking at for volunteer follow-up. I think part of the issue, of course, is risk management and training, but I do think the toughest part is the initial engagement. Yeah.
You got a group of, it's you, a police officer, and somebody from the fire department, and you arrive at somebody's house. And how long are you there?
Okay. He wants to know how long are we there. I'd say it varies. Because like if Shauna goes out, I'm usually at the substation. Sometimes we'll bring them right to the substation for their assessment and we'll start the placement process. If that's not happening, I'd say we're rarely there more than 30 minutes. Because it's kind of like you're gonna make a positive engagement or you're not. Now, like we said, we will go back again, and sometimes it's that second visit. Or many times, we try to get all the family member numbers. We will follow up with the family. How's it going? Any changes? And, as we talk about families, my bias is that we want to encourage families to take as much action as they can. Not that they're responsible, but that you don't have to just sit and wait. We can start trying to make some shifts in things that may make it more likely that the person will go into treatment. But that initial contact, generally, I'd say, doesn't take longer than 30 minutes.
And then you move on to the next one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Why don't I just add that as you have additional folks, you have the worst job. As you have additional folks at the visit, so it might be me talking with the addiction person and then law enforcement, there might be a mom there or a husband or a boyfriend. So, and the messaging is, and I guess we've come to kind of take it for granted because I think we've learned it over time, is all the same. It's all health, wellness. We want you to be safe. We want, what can we do to get you there? And so that's the same messages that law enforcement or EMS or fire is sharing with family members or the addiction person too. So
that's why it goes faster.
Very
That's a good
unified,
point.
But it's all a very unified kind of message. And I think that's been really impactful, more than you'd think. Because a lot of this is so, it just seems simple. Really, but it creates this relationship that I hadn't really expected as much as I've seen.
Yeah.
Wait for it.
So I understand this right. The 30-minute home visit. Now, once you make a breakthrough and somebody agrees for an assessment, then you're taking the individual to a substation for placement. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're trying to move them. It doesn't always work that well, but we want to move them as quickly as possible to a treatment environment. Because first of all, we have that window that's open. A little bit later, we can skip this part, but you guys know opioid addiction. You got like 12 to 18 hours before you're dope sick again. And once they start to get dope sick again, they're going to use again. So we try to move very quickly. The other mindset thing I thought you have to accept is they're going to use till you get them in treatment. And you have to learn to live with that. And I find myself, just warning them. I mean, I don't know, what are you going to do? Watch what's on the street. This is what we've heard. Don't trust your dealer necessarily. But they will use until you get them help. And so we do try to move really rapidly.
So how many folks do you have at like a substation for assessment? So the paramedic, police officer, the counselor, 30 minutes, make a breakthrough. We ship the addict off to the substation. We move on to
yeah.
another house. Let's say we're lucky
Well,
again.
our system, but we're set up in some ways for placement. So we have working on this project. So even if nobody's there, there's always work. But we are able at the substation, we'll at least have one other person there, usually two. We want to, if they're not on Medicaid, we want to get them signed up because resources are critical. So we'll start all that, and then hopefully we can also do that assessment that day. They don't all come that day. A lot of times they'll say, I'll come next week, and so we stick with them until we can get them to come in.
Sure.
So everyone isn't going into the same level of care, right?
No,
I mean,
so we assess and screen for the level of care.
How much detox do you have available in your community?
Well, I think detox is the biggest problem, so we also work with local MAT providers who will do, that kind of taper off this while upping the medication-assisted treatment. It's without detox or medication, we rarely, we've had, they talk about people don't want help. I'll just briefly share this. This man came to the police station and said he needed help, and he had $435 a month of disability. We met him at the mall. We believe that we don't want to make you come all the way downtown to a main office. So the mall, who cares? I mean, and the mall, if you want to come for help, you can say you're going shopping. You don't have to say, I'm going to the Addiction Services Council. So we got this guy assessed, and then he did do it cold turkey in a hotel, like one of the ones you rent for the week. And this guy called every single day. We tried to get him help, and he was turned away at almost every inn. I think sometimes we see the worst of our own addiction treatment system in this end of the job, where you're like, what do you mean you're not going to take anybody till after Christmas? It's like, even faith-based places. I'm like, would Jesus turn you away? But you're just like, what do you mean? You're not going to even interview this guy? So he did finally make it somewhere, but it was like you could hear it in his voice. He was locked in this hotel room, afraid to go anywhere. So it's very tricky because, and I had to, in my day, we said, heroin addicts weren't this wimpy. They just went cold turkey and got on with their lives. So I've had to really shift my attitude. This is like this is not the 70s. This is a different deal. And this dope sick these days is horrible. And horrible. We, in training, showed a couple of YouTubes. It's like, if you think this is easy, watch what this is like.